Thursday. Heaviest rain for the Avalon will be set for tonight through Thursday afternoon. Now, we have the wet weather on the East Coast. We have the wet weather on the West Coast. And in between, we have fluctuating temperatures. Fairly dry forecast ahead for Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. There is going to be this ridge of high pressure that builds into Ontario and Quebec for tomorrow. But right in behind it, there's quite a dramatic dip for Thursday, which is going to mean active weather moves into the lower Great Lakes on Thursday. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, there's going to be a lot of Swifties in the Toronto area on Thursday that should pack a sparkly umbrella as well, especially if you are planning to line up early to get any of that merch or just get into the scene, because it is likely to be wet for Thursday itself. Now, in terms of temperatures this morning, there are some spots that are quite cool. Thunder Bay, it's -8. There is a decent wind chill right across central and northern communities in both Ontario and then heading into southwest Quebec. Some areas seeing that wind chill into the minus double digits this morning. Now, the afternoon looks fairly seasonal. In fact, in some spots, it will be above as you go to Regina, for example, sitting at 8 degrees this afternoon, 7 for Winnipeg. Those are above the long-term averages. Cities like Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal, all sitting anywhere between 4 to 6 degrees. Those are below average. The average high this time of year sits closer to about 8 degrees, so slightly below. As you head over to Atlantic Canada, it's 12 degrees this afternoon in St. John's. What we're going to notice over the next couple of days is very cool temperatures in the morning. So for tomorrow morning, Wednesday, this time, it will be very close to freezing for areas in the fuchsia. So that's Toronto, for Ottawa, for Quebec City, for areas right across New Brunswick and the western edge of Newfoundland. As we go into Thursday morning, some spots will be slightly milder. Southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, the lower Great Lakes, Toronto down towards Windsor, a milder morning on Thursday. But like I said, that rain will start to move its way in. We've got the rain in Newfoundland. We've got rainfall warnings there. We also have rain and snow in the Maritime provinces. We're going to talk a little bit more about the impact of the weather coming up in the next half hour. For now, here's your local forecast. Welcome back. It was a very windy night if you are in parts of southern Ontario and southern Quebec. And we can see that here with the radar and satellite map just by looking at the precipitation that's departing the region. If you look just south of Lake Ontario, you can see how it almost looks like tiny little bands of rain or snow coming off the lake there. That shows us that the wind is fairly strong and driving that lake-enhanced precipitation. I noticed it because the Halloween decorations that are still lingering in my house are just outside. We're flapping around like crazy, and we had a skeleton hitting our porch that woke me up last night. Anyway, I digress. It is windy this morning. It's going to be a super sunny day, but it's going to be windy through the morning, and it's going to be cool later on this afternoon. So when you look at those highs, you can see they are trending in single digits. For some, they hold steady, like Ottawa, 4 degrees for the next couple of days. Others, like Toronto, will warm up as we head in towards Thursday. But we've got some precipitation to talk about. Today is going to be very dry across both provinces from the south to the north. We will see sunny conditions. But again, the breeze will be fairly substantial this morning, dying down as the day progresses. Now, Wednesday starts off dry, but we zoom out and we've got some incoming precipitation. Now, this will move its way into northwest Ontario as early as the lunch hour tomorrow. And then as we head into the evening, that cloud cover really increasing. By early morning on Wednesday, and on Thursday. I point out Thursday in particular because we know the Eras Tour is kicking off in Toronto on Thursday. The day starts off cloudy in the morning. By the time we hit the lunch hour, that rain starts to move its way in, and by mid-afternoon, we start to see it approaching the Toronto area. It will rain quite steadily as we head toward concert time by evening, and then the rain slowly clearing the region. So if you are planning to be in the Toronto area for either the concert itself or the general buzz in the area, just know that it's likely to be wet. Then the other big thing will be this weather system coming in from the Atlantic, backing its way into Ontario and Quebec. Starts first with Quebec as we head into Saturday morning, bringing with it a messy mix of rain and then snow for areas on the back end of it. We'll also have another weather system that pushes in from southern Manitoba into northwest Ontario by the time we hit Sunday morning. So lots of active weather in the extended forecast. In St. John's, we'll go there live just to round things out this morning. This view of St. John's, courtesy of NTV Plus. It's raining. There is... Welcome back. Right before the break, Anne-Marie was showing that view of Pier 21 in Halifax, and it's just misty and wet and rainy. There's this little blip of rain and snow moving through the maritime provinces, and then there's rain as well happening in St. John's, where a rainfall warning is in effect for the Avalon Peninsula. We also have wet weather on the west coast as well. It's 8 degrees right now in Vancouver, and we'll show you the latest view from Vancouver. This is obviously a still shot of the latest picture, but you can see the road is wet. We've got a couple days of wet conditions set for the Pacific region. That is going to drive a decent change in the forecast right across Western Canada, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And then smack in between those two big weather stories on either southern coast is the fact that it's chilly this morning. We've got generally sunshine for the afternoon, but this morning minus double-digit wind chills for areas of southwest Quebec. Now, the highs today are single digits from Alberta, well, northern BC, Alberta, through the prairies, right through Ontario and Quebec, and then you hit Atlantic Canada, and we jump back up into the doubles. So 11 in Vancouver this afternoon, 11 for Halifax, 12 in St. John's. But again, seeing the messy weather on both southern coastlines. Now, for BC, we have precipitation this morning happening. A few flurries within the Okanagan, a few showers right around Victoria and Vancouver. But we also have rainfall warnings in effect. 60 to 80 millimeters of rain is expected. We also have damaging wind warnings, and generally the wind speeds 90 to 100 kilometers an hour, but that exposed coastline of the Pacific seeing wind gusts up to 110 kilometers an hour. And then while that's happening, we're likely to see clearing in parts of Alberta. Temperature-wise, you'll see that bump up over the next couple of days due to the southwesterly winds coming in off the Pacific. For Saskatchewan, for Manitoba, we've got some spots that will be fairly warm over the next couple of days. 11 degrees on Thursday in Estevan, for example. Now, we'll see that moisture approaching BC as the day progresses. So it's showery today ahead of it. The heaviest rainfall set to move in by this evening. Now, for higher terrain, that's flipping quite rapidly over to snow. That's going to drive, again, the warmer air in southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, with full-on sun expected in Saskatchewan as we go into Wednesday afternoon. Then while that's happening, by Thursday, some of that moisture starts to spill over. We get into a weather system that develops across the region by Thursday evening, traveling eastward eventually into Manitoba and parts of northern Ontario as well. Now, it's going to be another round of wet weather as we hit the weekend. By Saturday evening, seeing a push of snow through southeastern Saskatchewan, the same area that will be at like 11 degrees on Thursday, Estevan, seeing snow as we go into the middle of the weekend. Now, in Atlantic Canada, this is what's happening right now. We've got a fair amount of rain happening in New Brunswick, snow for communities like Edmundston, right through the Gaspé Peninsula, and then a few showers just off the coastline for St. John's. But there is a rainfall warning in effect there, with that precipitation as well happening in the Maritimes. And temperature-wise, it is going to be, fairly warm within the region. In fact, the hot spots in Canada are in Newfoundland this morning, with temperatures hitting 12 degrees this afternoon. We'll take a short break here on the show, but up next, the Eras Tour, we know it's coming to... Welcome back. November comes with a lot of change in the weather forecast as we transition from summer to winter. And as this last month of meteorological fall, we'll certainly start to see more of a pull towards those cooler temperatures, towards more snow as opposed to rain, and to windier days as this winter weather really takes hold right across the country. Most cities report their average high this time of year in single digits. And day by day, we start to see that gradual drop. Now, you'll still have some days of warmth. We've got an upper ridge that's going to build its way into parts of the lower Great Lakes in southern Quebec over the coming days. But notice right in behind that, there's this trough, this dip in the jet stream that slides through. And so temperatures, while they'll start to rebound over the coming days, you'll notice that that heat doesn't stick around for long periods of time. It might just be one day where you have maybe like 11 degrees as your daytime high. You'll also start to notice that mornings are going to get even cooler. As we go into tomorrow morning, for areas right across that Ontario-Quebec boundary, right through New Brunswick and up towards Labrador and Newfoundland, temperatures in the morning tomorrow very close to zero. I'd say that even includes a city like Toronto. It will be milder as we head head into Thursday morning for communities like Toronto down towards Windsor, but also in southern Saskatchewan and southern Alberta. And that's due to the fact that we have a Chinook brewing. We've got a warmer day ahead, both today and into tomorrow. Now, for Ontario and Quebec, it's windy this morning, something to keep in mind. Single-digit highs for the next couple of days. Windsor, you're the exception to that. We'll also see lots of sunshine across both provinces. A little more cloud as you head farther north up toward Hudson Bay, but generally very, very sunny day ahead. Cloud starts to build into Wednesday. We zoom out. We've got this precipitation brewing. It'll hit northwest Ontario first for Wednesday afternoon. By Thursday morning, when we're live outside of Rogers Centre in Toronto for the Eras Tour, it will be cloudy to start off the day, which means temperatures are milder, but by mid-afternoon, the rain starts to move its way in, and that rain is going to stick around light at times through the evening. By the time the concert kicks off, which I'm just pointing out because there's going to be a lot of people downtown, it will be raining. So make sure you have a sparkly umbrella or something with you. That will then move its way out, and it doesn't really track up towards the Ottawa, Montreal area by any means. Friday itself, we start to get into this weather system that backs in from Atlantic Canada for Quebec, and this is going to bring rain and snow for many different communities. This will be the story right into the weekend as another system slides in from the west. So we get two systems almost kind of meeting in the middle. It just means an extended period of wet conditions. And then in Atlantic Canada, we've got heavy rainfall expected for the Avalon Peninsula with a separate round of rain and snow for our Maritimes. We'll talk more about this coming up. Also ahead in our next half hour, Beyonce leading the 20 system that slams into BC, and it brings a renewed round of rain and damaging winds across the region. We've got a number of warnings in effect for Vancouver Island. For Vancouver itself, it's 8 degrees there this morning. Below freezing right through Edmonton, Regina, Winnipeg +2 right now, -7 in Thunder Bay. We've got single-digit temperatures. Toronto, it's 2 degrees, 1 in Ottawa, 4 for Montreal, and then warming up as we head over to Newfoundland. But wind chill's a factor. It is really breezy across Ontario and Quebec this morning, particularly in the south. This afternoon, that keeps it cool. It's slightly below average for Toronto, a little more below average for Ottawa and Montreal. 12 degrees this afternoon in St. John's and 11 in Vancouver. But it's interesting that both of our southern coasts are seeing this wet weather for today. We have rainfall warnings in effect on either coastline in Newfoundland and in BC. Now, we'll start first in BC, where we see this morning it is not bad by any means. The warnings that are in effect are for later on today, where we see rain and wind developing across the region. Higher terrain will see snow, but as of right now, there are no snowfall warnings in effect. It's just the rain that's the biggest concern. And part of it has to do with the sheer intensity of it. For both Courtenay, for example, on Vancouver Island, and then Vancouver, it's 60 to 80 millimeters of rain. Plus, add on top of that, the fact that the winds will be 90 to 100 kilometers an hour, but up to 110 along exposed sections of Vancouver Island, right along the Pacific coastline there. Then while that's happening, we see southwesterly winds dominating the Alberta-Saskatchewan forecast. So that drives, in particular for Alberta, Chinook conditions. We'll see very mild temperatures. I hesitate to even say warm because it'll only peak at like 11, 12 degrees, but mild temperatures across the region for the next couple of days. You see that here with the 3-day forecast for Alberta, 9 degrees today in Calgary, 11 for Lethbridge, 11 in Medicine Hat. For Saskatchewan and Manitoba, areas that are farther south will see more of that warm up. So 10 degrees in Estevan by Thursday, for example. Now, the heaviest precipitation really arrives tonight, and it pushes its way into the region. While that happens, we see the Chinook conditions in Alberta. It's short-lived. Later on this week, there is snow expected in Saskatchewan. We'll talk more about that in the next half hour. For now, here's a look at your local forecast. And you're likely seeing a fairly decent downpour at this hour as this rain is moving its way through. What's interesting is we've got this precipitation here, but it's actually Newfoundland where we have the warnings this morning. And that's because of this front, as it moves its way northward, is going to prompt rainfall to be heavy enough that flooding would be a concern just due to the fact that the ground can't soak up that moisture that quickly. The precipitation that's over our Maritimes very slowly moves its way eastward. As it does, there's enough cold air that by mid-afternoon, some communities communities like Moncton, for example, might be flipping over to snow. And if it's not snow, it's likely kind of crusty raindrops. You know, when you're driving and you see the raindrop kind of splat on your windshield, it's a little icier than a typical rain in the middle of summer, for example. That's what you'll see today. Now, that is just going to continue its eastward trek as we head overnight tonight and then into the early morning hours tomorrow. That precipitation is finally done. I dare say that PEI, communities north of Halifax up towards Cape Breton, you'll likely stay misty right as we go into the morning tomorrow, if not fairly overcast. The sky will clear for Fredericton, St. John, and Yarmouth, which means that tomorrow morning will also be a cooler start to the day. By mid-afternoon, we're still seeing that rain last in Newfoundland. Areas just to the west of the Avalon Peninsula will likely see freezing rain or ice pellets as that warm air sits in the middle of the atmosphere. That'll last right through the evening on Thursday, and then this backs its way into the Maritimes. So as you see this renewed round of moisture as we round out the day on Thursday. Now, the heaviest precipitation is expected in the Avalon Peninsula from tonight through Thursday evening, with some showers lasting after that, hence why there's that rainfall warning. It's a long-duration rainfall event. For Ontario and Quebec and behind, initially the forecast is really quiet. It's windy this morning, it's cool, but we've got lots of sun for today and into the first bit of tomorrow. Through the day on Wednesday, the cloud cover does build in the south. Northwest Ontario will see rain and snow, and then by Thursday morning, we start to see this precipitation climb its way in. Here's a nice update for us. This forecast model, as it's updating through the morning, is slowing down that rainfall. So by mid-afternoon, it's still well out of the Toronto region, likely not approaching until that big concert on Thursday, is ending. So that's a nice update for you. For now, here is your local forecast.